It's week 13. You want to make sure you get the right wide receivers in your lineup. So let's go through every game. And it's a full slate starting on Thursday. Which receivers should you start and who should be on your bench? Well, first, here's the must start tier. These receivers should stick in your lineup: Nico Collins, AJ Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, Mike Evans, Jamar Chase, and Justin Jefferson. Keep in mind, no teams have a bye this week, and we got 3 games on Thursday and a Friday game. You're going to want to make sure you get your lineup set nice and early. You're also going to want to make sure you get your NFL pick'ems on Underdog set and take the one that they're giving you for free on Thursday. It's Jordan Love in that Thanksgiving Day game, just getting a yard. That's right. If you're a new customer on Underdog, you get this free pick. If you haven't tried it yet, just make sure you use code ENDGAME when you check out, because you get that free pick and you also get up to $1,000 of bonus cash on your first deposit. Just make sure you're using code ENDGAME when you check out. On Thanksgiving Day, the first game, Bears-Lions, as you would expect. Man, that Bears offense looking a lot different lately. Let's start with DJ Moore, who had himself a nice game, but now he gets the Detroit Lions defense.
Gets the Detroit Lions defense, but they haven't been good against wide receivers. I'll say it's weird. He had a big game, but he actually had the fewest amount of targets of these 3 receivers. But I don't really know how to feel about any of these receivers. Like, I like them all, and I can't really pick one out as my favorite. So I'm just going to say DJ Moore is a solid start.
Exactly. It's actually kind of frustrating because you don't know what to expect from week to week. I do know at least we can expect some points here. DJ Moore has been good now for a couple weeks in a row, but you can't go crazy because it could be somebody else. Let's go solid start. And I really thought last week it'd be Rome Odunze who led the pack here, and he didn't, but maybe it'll be this week. Who knows?
It could. 10 targets last week. I mean, the opportunity is there. It could be his week. So again, I'm just going to say solid start.
Exactly. This is almost turning into like a Packers situation. Don't know who's going to go off, but they're probably going to have to pass the ball a lot. Let's put him in the solid tier and hope for the best. And then Keenan Allen did lead this team, 15 targets last week. I mean, how high can you be on him?
I think I might be slightly higher on him than the other 2, only because Detroit is so bad against slot wide receivers. But at the same time, I'm not going to say he's a strong start. I'm just going to say Keenan Allen, once again, solid start.
Exactly. I mean, you can't get carried away with any one of these receivers, but at least you feel good about all of them. So solid start, but I do feel really good about this. If you do Underdog picks and get him in before Thursday, right now he's only at 48.5 receiving yards. I'm definitely taking the higher on that, and you should too. Look, if you get that free pick because you're signing up for Underdog for the very first time, make sure you use promo code ENDGAME. You get the free pick of Jordan Love getting 1 yard. Take Keenan Allen going higher than 48.5 yards. Great chance to win your very first pick on Underdog. And the Detroit side, another guy you just never really know what to expect week to week, Jameson Williams. What do you expect this week?
I don't expect a huge game. This is a tough matchup against the Bears secondary. I know Jordan Addison just went off against them, but that's because the Bears did everything they could to shut down Justin Jefferson. That's not going to be the case this week. I think Jameson Williams, for me, is just a flex.
No, last couple of weeks he's had great matchup. This one, not so great. Always has that big upside, but just a flex for now. All right, now we got the Giants at the Cowboys. A couple of receivers who used to be in the must-start tier and no longer. In fact, what tier do you put Malik Nabers in these days with Tommy DeVito apparently coming back as the quarterback?
My initial thought was flex tier, but I think I'm going to put him in the solid tier because he still does get the targets, but you've got to be very worried about Malik Nabers. No ceiling here at all, so low end of the solid tier.
That's the thing is, on the one hand, you figure maybe this is squeaky wheel type of game because he was openly complaining last week, but what's the solution? Still got the same quarterback. It's the same offense, same everything. Maybe he'll get a few more targets, but that's not really the issue either. He's getting targeted. Oh, man, I'm just going to say he's a flex with potentially some upside. Wan'Dale Robinson. Okay, I was kind of in last week because it was the Bucs. I know the Cowboys aren't great, but still, there is no upside here. I'm just going to avoid him.
I hate myself every time I fall for what little tiny minuscule amount I fall for Wan'Dale Robinson. I'm not starting Wan'Dale Robinson.
All right, now CeeDee Lamb. Hey, look, he's getting a ton of targets. He's at least been somewhat productive the last couple of weeks. What does he do this week?
It's a good matchup against the Giants. I really want to put him in the strong start tier because he's getting a lot of catches. He's getting the yards, but is he ever going to score a touchdown with Cooper Rush? I just don't know. So I will say this week against the Giants at home, CeeDee Lamb, a strong start, but like the lower end of the strong starts.
All right, well, good. Actually, I'm going to put him in the strong tier as well. I mean, he's been productive. Touchdowns, you never know. It could happen this week. But that was a road game against a pretty good Commanders defense. He still came through. I will say I feel better about Cooper Rush. He showed something. He hasn't really been bad. So I think against the Giants, CeeDee Lamb's got to be a strong start. And the last game on Thursday is the Dolphins at the Packers. Tyreek Hill, another guy. He's just not coming through with those huge games anymore. Does it happen this week?
Who really knows? And it's not like the Dolphins' offense hasn't been good. They're putting up points. They're scoring touchdowns. It's just, where is Tyreek Hill? I still have to consider him a strong start, but I'm really starting to lose hope here.
I'm going to say solid start because he's probably going to continue to do what he's done. Teams are going to continue to defend the Dolphins the way they have. They're going to put those two high safeties. They're going to take away the big play. The Dolphins are going to continue to work underneath. They're winning games. Why would they change what they're doing either? So Hill will get you something, but I don't think it's going to be a huge game. And now, just when we had almost given up all hope on Jalen Waddle, here he comes back. You knew this was coming. You even said one of these days he's going to have a huge game, and he had it. So what do you do with him now?
I feel like this is going to be a trap, but at the same time, I can't just be like, don't start Jalen Waddle after he's coming off that huge game. So I'll say a flex, but don't be shocked if he goes back to being terrible this week.
This is going to be one of your most challenging decisions, is what to do with Waddle this week. I'm just going to put him in the flex tier and say this really depends on who else you got. And then here we go with the Packers wide receiver core. None of them really had a big game last week, and that includes Jaden Reed, who could have, but yeah, it doesn't help when you only get 3 targets. Does anything change here?
No, what's going to change? I said last week, that's it. I'm done. I don't care his name is Jaden Reed. He's in the flex tier for me. He's in the flex tier rest of the season for me. Yes, like Jalen Waddle, he'll probably have a big game or two, but good luck figuring out when they'll be.
Yeah, and it really should have been a big game based on the coverage and the Niners defense last week, and they did stomp the 49ers, but they only ran the ball. This week, they get a Dolphins defense that is now statistically the number 1 toughest defense against wide receivers in terms of fantasy points allowed. So Jaden Reed is just a flex if you're hoping for a touchdown. And guess what? Let's go down the line here. Christian Watson, yeah, just a flex. Could have had a big game if he didn't drop an easy touchdown. This is the Christian Watson experience, isn't it?
It is. He's just a flex.
And then Romeo Doubs, who, hey, we're not even sure. He left with a concussion. Not sure if he'll play. If he does,
just a flex.
Now, hopefully this video helps you with all your start sit decisions, but if you still have questions for start sit, waiver wire trades, or anything fantasy football related, use the Draft Lane app because that connects you directly with Chris and myself for all your fantasy football needs. Download it for free right now. Raiders at the Chiefs. All right, so Jacoby Myers did come through against Denver. Man, talk about garbage time king. A lot of points based on his target volume. Can he do it again? And it's going to have to be with a different quarterback because Gardner Minshew is done for the season.
You got to be nervous here because now it's Desmond Ridder. Not like Gardner Minshew is such a great quarterback, but I mean, Desmond Ridder, oh man, you got to be nervous. But Jacoby Myers has been mostly solid without Devontae Adams. It is the Chiefs on the road. I'm going to say, even coming off that big game, just a flex.
Sorry, Desmond Ridder makes me very nervous, and the matchup is really tough. So a flex, but a very nervous one. Now on the Chiefs side, DeAndre Hopkins at least did something, getting that touchdown late in the game. But still, I mean, the target share has just not been there.
It's not there. He's not running a ton of routes. It seems like he's kind of more of a situational wide receiver for the Chiefs. So even against the Raiders, I can only say a flex.
I mean, without touchdowns, honestly, he has not had more than one actually good receiving game since going to Kansas City. Thought his fantasy value would boom, and it really hasn't. I don't know why it would change now. So he's a flex that you're hoping for a touchdown from. Which leads us to Xavier Worthy. Is he anything more?
No, I think he's just a flex. He actually has out-targeted DeAndre Hopkins the last 2 games, and he runs more routes, but also, a lot of missed connections here, so still just a flex. But at least now he kind of has a floor.
Right. Well, at least he can be considered. But again, you know the risk. The risk is that there is nothing, right? No floor here. The upside is you're hoping for that big play. Maybe, maybe not. All right, on to the Sunday slate. Let's talk Chargers and Falcons. Lad McConkey. This is actually a pretty good matchup if you look at the defensive matchup here.
It is. I'm not scared of this Falcons defense for him. He's clearly the number one wide receiver here. I think Lad McConkey is a strong start this week.
Yeah, even if he hasn't gone ballistic like we want him to do every single week, Falcons' pass defense has gotten pretty bad to the point that they're one of the worst in terms of defending wide receivers. So I think if you had Lad McConkey, you still feel pretty good. So let's call him a strong start. Quentin Johnston, not quite as consistent. I mean, sure, he could pull that big play out, but do you think he will this week?
He could. It's another good matchup for him, but he's always very risky. So risky flex with upside.
Yeah, I feel like he's just becoming that kind of player, right? Boom, bust, you can put in your flex. Josh Palmer, I mean, he feels kind of like Quentin Johnson, but with less upside.
Yeah, I'm not starting Josh Palmer this week. There are no buys. I don't need Josh Palmer.
Agree. It's not that good of a matchup. I think we can sit Josh Palmer. Now the Falcons coming off a bye. All right, so what do you think Drake London can do against this tough Chargers defense?
Yeah, I'm not too worried about this Chargers defense. I mean, they've given up big plays. We just saw Rashad Bateman with that huge touchdown. I think Drake London, I'm still going to put him in the strong start tier.
Can't fade him for any reason. The target share's been there. Let's hope Kirk Cousins look a little crisper after this bye. But yeah, Drake London should still be a strong start. And what about Darnell Mooney? I feel like he's always just kind of solid.
Exactly. He's solid. It is a little bit of worry here. Remember, he left that game with an injury before the bye, but assuming he plays and is good to go, he's solid.
Yeah, good point. Let's hope he is 100%. I think he will be. And again, solid tier like usual. Steelers at the Bengals this week. George Pickens. I mean, the upside is always there, and this matchup should be another good one for him.
It should be. I'm giving him a pass for last week. Come on, the weather in the second half was terrible. He's been great with Russell Wilson, and Bengals games typically turn into high-scoring, high-passing shootouts. I want George Pickens in my lineup this week. Strong start.
Agree. It's nice that we can actually put Pickens in our lineups and not worry too much about it. He's going to get you something. Definitely potential for a big game. Strong start. And now we have to maybe pay attention to Calvin Austin. Had that long touchdown, but it wasn't the first one. So I did recommend it as a deep waiver ad. Would you go so far as to flex him?
No, I don't think you should need Calvin Austin this week. And this isn't like a smash matchup like the Ravens or something like that. I'm going to avoid Calvin Austin.
Yeah, well, hopefully you don't need to, but if you do and you're looking for somebody who could get you that home run play, I think you could do worse than Austin. The Bengals, like we said, have given up a lot of big plays to wide receivers in big games. So if you're looking for that home run, I think Austin could be a flex for you. And for Cincinnati, of course, you're starting Jamar Chase. Are you definitely starting T. Higgins?
Yes, I don't know how you could bench T. Higgins at this point with what he's done this year when he's actually on the field. So T. Higgins, strong start.
If he's playing, you play him. T. Higgins should be a strong start, even in a fairly tough matchup. All right, now the Texans going against the Jaguars. So Tank Dell, very up and down, more down than up, honestly, this season. But now he gets the Jags defense. Is that enough to interest you?
It's enough to interest me, but only as a flex. And he's still risky here. I still don't know if the upside is really there. A flex.
I don't think the problem has been the schedule per se. It's been CJ Stroud just not looking like the same guy. So, I mean, yes, he could pull off a touchdown or a decent game, but just as a flex. And now Brian Thomas Jr. has definitely been on the decline for fantasy the last couple of weeks, but Trevor Lawrence should be back this week. So where do you put BTJ?
Assuming Trevor Lawrence is back, which sounds likely, I think BTJ is going to be a solid start for me. Texans secondary doesn't scare me off him. I'm going to say solid start, assuming T-Law plays.
Yeah, that definitely matters. If Mac Jones is still the quarterback, no, I'm out on all Jags receivers. But if T-Law is back, I'm going to be pretty high on Brian Thomas Jr. I can't go too far, but I'll say a very solid start because the Texans has given up a lot of points to wide receivers lately. Cardinals going to take on the Vikings this week. So Marvin Harrison Jr., yeah, welcome back to the land of disappointment and uncertainty. What do we get this week?
Yeah, Marvin Harrison this year, you just never know. So up and down. But the Vikings do give up a lot of points to wide receivers. He's clearly the number one guy here. I'll say Marvin Harrison, a solid start. Just know it could go either way.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I'm still putting in my lineup and just taking what he gives me. For what it's worth, that one play I really feel should have been a touchdown. They didn't call it upon replay, but whatever. Harrison still has upside in this matchup, so he's solid. And it wasn't Harrison, it was Jordan Addison from Minnesota who went ballistic last week, while Justin Jefferson did almost nothing again. First of all, what's going on here, and what do we do with Jordan Addison now? Is he a guy you just have to put in your lineup?
I guess I'm still nervous here because I don't think the Cardinals have the personnel to do what the Bears did to Justin Jefferson. But Jordan Addison's been pretty good the last couple of games, so I guess I got to say Jordan Addison a solid start this week.
You can't say you have to start him, but you definitely can't ignore him anymore. The Cardinals' defense hasn't been great for a couple of weeks in a row. Let's just split the difference and say he's a solid start. All right, Colts and Patriots. Now I got to feel a lot better about Michael Pittman, not only leading the team in receiving last week, but Josh Downs probably not going to play.
Yeah, you got to feel pretty good about Michael Pittman. I'm not going to go crazy here because it's still Michael Pittman, but I think he's a very solid start this week.
You know what? I will take it a step further because, number one, no downs means a lot more targets up for grabs. Number two, this is the Patriots. We've seen that defense get eviscerated by Jalen Waddle last week and a lot of teams able to pass. I'm going to say reluctantly that he should be in the strong tier because of everything in place for this week. So let's go for it. Michael Pittman, start him. Now, this also could open up an opportunity for A.D. Mitchell, the rookie, who did have a nice game a couple weeks ago. Granted, that was with Joe Flacco. So what are you doing with Mitchell?
Certainly more interested in him, but at the same time, very risky here. Again, there's no teams on bye. I don't think you should need a Donnie Mitchell this week. I'm going to avoid him.
I could be a little too confident in the Colts again this week. I think he's at least worth a flex if you need it. Again, you probably shouldn't, but at least there's some upside here. And then Patriots, still probably the only receiver worth talking about is Demario Douglas, who will get you a floor, but anything else?
He's like a slightly better Wan'Dale Robinson. This is not what I'm looking for in my lineup now.
Yeah, I mean, if you need a floor, he'll get it for you. Take your few points and call it a day. I mean, you could flex him. The Seahawks are going to take on the Jets this week. DK Metcalf, not a no-brainer anymore. In fact, I'm not even sure he's the top target in Seattle, but I think he's still pretty startable.
Yeah, I think he's still pretty startable, but I don't think I can call him a strong start this week. I mean, the Jets still have a good secondary, and we are seeing Jackson Smith and Jigba get more involved. So I'm going to say this week, DK Metcalf, just a solid start.
Solid because he'll get you some points, but this Jets defense, although it doesn't feel like it, they've still been pretty good, allowing the second fewest fantasy points to wide receivers. Sauce Gardner, like maybe he's not shutting receivers down, he's still good, right? So DK Metcalf is a solid start, but not a must start anymore. And part of that reason is because Jackson Smith and Jigba has now emerged. Are we seeing a breakout? Are we seeing him as the top target in Seattle?
This is tough. I talked about it on the lessons video. Yes, he's the top target by targets, but his ADOT in week 12 was 1.9. 66 of his 77 yards came after the catch. But at the same time, I can't ignore what he's been doing for fantasy, but it is a Jets. Solid start.
Yeah, I agree. It feels like DK and Jason are going to be kind of neck and neck here in terms of fantasy value. So solid start in a tough matchup. And where does that leave Tyler Lockett? Well, I know for me, it left him on the cut list. I don't think you even need to keep him anymore.
Exactly. Not starting Lockett.
All right, now here's the real question as far as the Jets offense is. For Garrett Wilson, first of all, how do you feel about him in fantasy? And who is he even going to be catching passes from in week 13?
He's catching passes from Aaron Rodgers. I don't know where this stuff is coming from. It's Aaron Rodgers. They've already said it's Aaron Rodgers. The head coach already said it's Aaron Rodgers. That being said, I can only say Garrett Wilson is a solid start because who knows if it's going to be him or Adams getting more targets. Just a solid start.
Yeah, I kind of wish it was a different quarterback, but hey, for now, you know Wilson has that upside. You really hope they took the bye week to figure out ways to get him the ball, but can't guarantee it. So solid is as high as we can go. What about Devontae Adams?
I'm going to have him a peg lower as a flex, even if he gets more targets than Garrett Wilson. What's the upside for Devontae Adams these days? Just a flex.
Just a flex because he hasn't really flashed that upside. I mean, honestly, without a touchdown, he's going to let you down. So you can still keep him in your lineup. Just don't expect too much. All right, next up is the Titans at the Commanders. Let's start with Calvin Ridley. If for what it's worth, Will Levis is looking a little bit better each and every week.
He's looking better throwing the ball. He still takes an obnoxious amount of sacks. I don't understand how any QB can get sacked as much as Will Levis. But, hey, it's okay for Calvin Ridley, I guess. I think this week, even though the Commanders have been tough against wide receivers, I'm going to bump Calvin Ridley up to the solid start here.
All right, that's good enough. I mean, he's getting yardage. He's getting a ton of targets. It's too bad he's not the one getting the touchdowns, but you never know. It's not a great matchup, so I'll just put him in the solid tier as well. Nick Westbrook-Akine, I'm sure everyone's noticed by now, is getting touchdowns pretty much every single game somehow, scoring a touchdown. Does he keep it going?
Why not? 2 catches and a touchdown. That's the Nick Westbrook-Akine stat line this week. He doesn't have the biggest ceiling because, again, only 2 catches, but he keeps scoring. He's a desperation flex.
He's got to at least be a flex option, but look, we can't go any higher than that. So flex if you need it. All right, and Terry McLaurin is going to be an interesting one. Was on his way to another absolute dud until that ridiculously long touchdown at the very end of the game that wound up not mattering. So, Terry McLaurin against the Titans. Where do you put him?
I'm a little nervous for Terry McLaurin. I can't lie. And the Titans have been better against wide receivers. So I'm going to say Terry McLaurin this week, only a solid start.
I would be more worried, although I did notice that L'Jarius Sneed, one of the top corners for Tennessee, is out. It's still a tough defense, though. I want to put Terry in the strong start category, but like you said, this offense has been slipping a little bit lately, so let's slide him down to the solid tier. And then just when you forgot about Noah Brown, kind of came back with a pretty good game, although that was the revenge game against the Cowboys. Does Noah Brown interest you this week?
No, because we've done this before, right? He has this game, and then everybody says, oh, Noah Brown. And then the next week when they start him, they're like, where is Noah Brown? I'm not doing it.
Yeah, the target share was healthy, but are they really going to have to pass the ball as much? Are they going to be losing to the Titans? I don't think so. Let's avoid Noah Brown. Okay, the Bucs at the Panthers. Look, for Tampa Bay's part, Mike Evans is a must, and there's nobody else you should even care about. We might have to care about Adam Thielen now. He made his comeback, did a little something. Does he do a little bit more?
I mean, he did do a little something. He drew a couple big pass interferences, which is good for the Panthers, but not for your fantasy team. I know it's the Bucs, but I mean, how good can we really feel about Adam Thielen? What's the upside here? I will say Bryce Young is actually looking okay, though, but yeah, I don't want to start Adam Thielen this week.
I got to at least put him in the flex tier. I mean, this was his first game back after missing several with a hamstring injury. It's the Bucs. I know I said that last week, and it didn't matter because it was the Giants offense, but look, Bryce Young is looking better. Adam Thielen is proven. He can get you points in PPR, so I can flex him. Would you consider Xavier Legette?
I don't think so either here. Again, this isn't a week. Like, if there were a bunch of buys and injuries, maybe I'd say yes to these guys, but I hope you can do better this week.
Yeah, Legette I will pass on because he's pretty much touchdown dependent, and I think with Thielen back now, maybe getting more targets, that does hurt Legette. But also, here's the thing, we have I can't say emergence, the sudden reappearance of veteran David Moore, who led the team and had actually a pretty nice game in Week 12. Do we have to consider David Moore?
I'm sure some people will, but I'm not chasing this. I'm not doing it.
No. And if you know the history of David Moore, he does this like once a year. It's like Groundhog Day. He appears, has a big game out of nowhere, and then goes back into hiding. So, no. Rams at the Saints. Look, LA's still got 2 must-start receivers. Demarcus Robinson is third, but he did score another touchdown. Can you go there as a flex this week?
It's the Saints, so he could score again, but really you are banking on him having to score a touchdown. And again, we're in a week with no buys, hardly any injuries. I'm not doing it with Demarcus Robinson.
No, I'll just avoid him here. Again, you do not want to depend just on a touchdown, the possibility of it. So let's avoid D-Rob. And then, just in case you thought we forgot MVS, oh no, Marquez Valdez-Scantling is back. What do you expect?
I expect maybe a couple catches. One of them could be a long touchdown, or a couple catches and one of them isn't a long touchdown. This is what you get. He's a risky flex with upside.
And will he ever be anything other than that? No. He's either a hard pass or a risky flex. This week, risky flex. Now, Eagles at the Ravens. Not sure what Devontae Smith's status is going to be. You know, he missed Week 12. If he comes back against this Ravens secondary, are you tempted?
I'm definitely tempted, but at the same time, I'm not going to go overboard here because they still have A.J. Brown and they have this guy named Saquon Barkley. So I'm going to say Devonta Smith, if he plays, a solid start.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, we have seen the Ravens try to shore up that secondary. It's not like they gave up a ton of passing yards to the receivers on Monday night. It's still a good matchup, but I think Devonta Smith is going to be in the solid tier for me. And in Baltimore, Zay Flowers dealing with another late start here. What do you think he'll do against this Eagles really tough secondary?
That's right. The late start, Zay Flowers. This is it. We've hit it. We've nailed it. We know what to do with Zay Flowers in these late starts, but he always has upside, and Kupp and Puka just had nice games against this secondary. I'm going to drop Zay Flowers down to the flex tier. Risky flex with upside.
I'm going to do it too. He's a flex. He could always hit that big play or give you absolutely nothing. Yeah, this Eagles defense is legit, but you can't just completely outright bench him. So flex with upside. And Rashad Bateman continues to serve as the number 2 receiver. He did score a touchdown last week. Can he pull it off again?
He could or he couldn't. He's kind of like MVS, just without quite the big play. I mean, he had the 40-yard touchdown, but he's not going to get you like a 70-yard touchdown like MVS might. So risky flex.
Yeah, I will say compared to some of the other flex options we listed, he's probably at the lower end here for me, like very, very risky. So low end flex. On Sunday night, it's going to be the 49ers at the Bills. This is going to definitely depend on what happens with Brock Purdy. So, if he's good to go, can we trust Juwan Jennings again?
Oh, absolutely. If Brock Purdy plays, Juwan Jennings, I'm going to put him back to a strong start. The issue is we don't know, and we might not even know up until game time because it's Kyle Shanahan, and we never know what injuries are going on with the 49ers. So, if it's Brock Purdy, strong start. If it's Brandon Allen, I think I have to bench Jennings.
Yeah, let's just get that out of the way right now. Brandon Allen, if he's the starter, probably going to sit both Jennings and Debo. If Purdy's back, I think I'll only put Jennings in the solid tier because this Buffalo pass defense is legit. Not sure exactly how healthy Brock Purdy will be even if he plays, so I got some concerns here. So Jennings, either solid or sit. And then Debo thought maybe would be a little bit better than Jennings last week, and no, nobody was good at all. So, thoughts on Debo?
Again, if it's Brandon Allen, I'm out on Debo. If it's Brock Purdy, I think I'll say just a flex.
Yeah, Debo, just for his part, he hasn't been the same guy this year. Feels like all season long. Not sure why, but if Purdy plays, he's a flex. Now, Buffalo, coming off their bye, had a couple of receivers banged up, so this might depend on whether they play. Look, Khalil Shakir has been the leading receiver. Do you think he keeps that going even if Cooper and Coleman are active?
I think he does. He's the guy that, is kind of like the safety blanket for Josh Allen. He trusts him. He catches everything Josh Allen throws his way, and I'm not scared of this 49ers defense. I think Khalil Shakir this week, regardless of which Buffalo wide receivers play or don't play, is a solid start.
Yeah, he's putting up really good numbers. He's been dependable, getting a lot of yardage after the catch. Yeah, he's just going to be solid. He might be the rest of the season. Now, we might see Amari Cooper closer to full health. Who knows? You think the bye will do him any good?
Maybe, but I'm not finding out in my fantasy lineups. I'm benching Cooper.
I'd like to think in a perfect world for Amari Cooper fantasy owners that he's fully healthy and they found ways to maybe get him going in this offense. But I can't say he's anything more than a risky flex option. Then Keon Coleman, probably the one who's most up in the air here as far as his status with the hand injury. If Coleman gives it a go, can you trust him?
It'd be tough to trust him, but I think you can flex him because I think he at least has upside.
Yeah, exactly. Just a flex as well. Big play touchdown is what you're hoping for, but the floor is very low. And on Monday night, we're going to get the Browns taking on the Broncos on the road. Jerry Jeudy has really come on lately, so where does he rank for you this week? And this, of course, is a revenge game.
It is. It is a revenge game. I think I'll put Jerry Jeudy at the low end of the solid starts. Not a great matchup here against the Broncos, but he seems to be Jameis Winston's number one target, so low end is solid starts.
Definitely a tough matchup, but again, the target share is there. They're going to throw the ball. And we're not really sure if Cedric Tillman's going to play because he's in the protocol. So, yeah, I actually will put him in the solid tier. And speaking of Tillman, if he is cleared, he's good to go. What do you do with him? Because his target share has actually dropped off.
It has, and this is not a good matchup. I don't really want to start Cedric Tillman this week.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there is still some upside, but probably don't need to go there this week. So probably just avoid. And then there's Elijah Moore. Is he viable?
No, again, I mean, there's no ceiling here for Elijah Moore. I'm going to avoid him as well.
Agree. Elijah Moore, it would have to be a really good matchup for me to trust him, and this is not it. Then for Denver, Courtland Sutton, it feels like he's getting better each and every week. Is he in the strong tier at this point?
He has to be. I don't even care about the matchup anymore, really. Courtland Sutton, you got him, you start him.
Yeah, very strong start week to week, and it just so happens this is a great matchup because the Browns over the last few weeks are one of the worst pass defenses. This is what happens. It's the Jameis Winston experience. Score a lot of points and give up a lot of points. So, yeah, Courtland Sutton is a strong start in week 13. And the rookie who had a nice game last week, Devon Vele, is he a guy you can consider based on this matchup?
I think you can consider him as a flex in your PPR leagues. Not a ton of upside, but if you need a floor in PPR, sure.
Yeah, he can be flexed, but again, my worry here, as I mentioned on the waiver video, is they still got Marvin Mims and Troy Franklin, and maybe Josh Reynolds comes back. Who knows? So they do spread the ball around quite a bit, other than Sutton. So I would say he can just be a flex in PPR. All right, that's our take on all the wide receivers you need to know about for Week 13. If you need help at running back, quarterback, tight end, anything else for fantasy, it's all here on the playlist.